Or I'll say, good day to you this day of your time. How are you all? First of all, we would like to take this opportunity to thank each and every one of you for the co-creation of this interaction. Once again, each and every time you co-create this kind of transmission between our respective societies, it creates a bridge, it creates a link between our respective realities, and creates a new third reality in which we can, more and more every day in every way, interact with each other more strongly, more concretely, more physically. So we thank you for the opportunity to experience each and every one of you, and the gift you have given to us of being able to share in your society. Let us begin this transmission with the following idea that we have entitled Download. Now, we have recently communicated the idea of how ideas, concepts, information comes from the higher mind through the physical brain into the physical mind, and is thus then experienced in a physical way in your reality. Let us quickly reiterate, before we go on to new information, the idea that, once again, these three components, higher mind, physical brain, physical mind, personality construct, if you will, the idea being that higher mind is the conceiver, physical brain is the receiver, physical mind is the perceiver of the reality that results from the application of the information downloaded from the higher mind. Anything that is what you call an inspiration, an idea, a creation, a conception, it does not actually originate in the physical mind. It originates in the higher mind. That is then downloaded through the physical brain and is then, in a sense, set up in the physical brain in a neurological, neuroelectric way, neurochemical way, to create the physical mind that then has the perception, the experience, the feedback, the application of what you call physical reality, and thus then creates the entire experience, the entire event. But the idea, the question here, is that as you open up to receive information through the conduit of imagination, through the receiver of the brain, you can make yourself more sensitized to the idea of receiving information of higher frequency, more densely compacted, higher levels of information, higher insights, broader perspectives. And there are many ways in which this can be done. As we have said, there are many tools, many techniques. Each and every one of them is simply a permission slip that you give to yourself based on your belief system as to what will work for you, and allowing you to grant yourself permission to open up and receive information and apply it in more creative and constructive ways, more positive ways. So it's not that any one specific technique or tool or ritual works better than any other. It is simply what works best for you. Because whatever you are attracted to use as a permission slip is obviously keyed to your vibrational makeup. What you are attracted to, you are attracted to for a reason. The reason being that that frequency strikes a chord within you, and thus then will work best for you, even though it may not work that well for someone else. But the idea here is to really understand the mechanism that's going on in terms of how the information from a higher dimension, which the higher mind occupies, is actually translated down through the brain into the physical mind, into that artificial construct we have called the personality, that then does the perceiving, the experiencing. This is generally how it occurs. In your physical brain, there is a nodal point, a nodule, that you refer to as the pineal gland. This is, in many ways, accurately represented by your society, by those who have recognized that they euphemistically call it the seat of the soul. What this means is, it is the interface. It is the neurological, neurochemical interface that allows for the translation of higher vibrational information into the brain in such a manner that then physical mind has access to it and can use that information to create a physical experience. How does this work? I will tell you. Thank you. The idea is that your pineal gland creates certain neurochemical transmitters. Primarily among them are what you call dimethyltryptamine, serotonin, and melatonin. The idea is that dimethyltryptamine is the primary one. It is vibrationally keyed to receive higher frequency vibrations. When those higher frequency vibrations, in a sense, are, shall we say, directed at the brain by the higher mind, directed into the brain, the pineal gland regulates the quantity of dimethyltryptamine, what you have euphemistically called DMT in your society, which is naturally produced in the brain. And it regulates the amount of that dimethyltryptamine that is appropriate for the reception of that information and the amount that is appropriate for the focusing of the physical mind in physical reality. So let us be clear about what is happening here. The pineal gland regulates this molecule and its vibration to determine exactly how and to what degree you are or are not focused in physical or non-physical reality. It is the gatekeeper. It is the regulator. It is the tuning dial for how much you are focused in physical or how much you are focused in non-physical reality. So the first level of reception is that this substance, dimethyltryptamine, receives the vibration of the higher information. Then also, where and when necessary, translates that vibrational energy into other neurochemical transmitters such as serotonin, melatonin, and along with dimethyltryptamine, in a sense, dumps these neurotransmitters into your cerebrospinal fluid, into your bloodstream, into the cells of your brain, into the cells of your body, in such a manner as to then set up the template neurochemically and then neuroelectrically to represent the idea of that information in neurochemical, neuroelectric form. Once it has been translated by these neurotransmitting chemicals in a neuroelectric, neurochemical form, then the physical mind has access to that information. Thus, then the physical mind receives that experience as the experience of inspiration, imagination, thought patterns, so on and so forth. But also, it then takes that information and applies it in whatever way, shape, or form it has already applied such information before with respect to crystallizing or solidifying patterns of that information. These crystallizations, these solidifications of patterns of information that the physical mind has received before, that it has decided are appropriate or pertinent or relevant to it, are called belief systems and definitions. So, the idea of the crystallized belief systems thus then also will affect the efficacy of your ability to download that information, because you will always pass that information after it has been translated from higher frequency energy into neurochemical, neuroelectric patterns. You will always pass that information through the crystallized belief systems within the artificial personality construct that have been set up, and those belief systems will then regulate to what degree you actually have the ability to access that higher frequency information, more or less, depending upon the nature of the belief that has been crystallized within the personality construct, within the physical mind. This is why it is so important to allow yourself clarity of belief system, clarity of how you define things in your physical reality experience. Because if you have certain kinds of belief systems that are constrictive, conditional in that sense, negative in that sense, mechanically speaking, they can limit your ability to actually perceive higher frequency energy being downloaded from your higher mind. And thus then they can make it seem as if you are incapable of receiving the guidance that is necessary for you to move through life in an effortless way, in a creative way, in a loving, joyful, exciting way. So the first stage always, because you are ensconced as physical personalities in physical reality experience, is to always get a handle on what your beliefs and definitions are about life, to make sure they are in alignment with what you prefer to believe and not contrary to it, that they are in alignment with your true natural vibration, which is really much closer to the higher frequency we're talking about, and thus then allow yourself to be capable of receiving that information in a much clearer and, shall we say, more original form. Now, the idea is that this can be enhanced in other ways as well, along with clarifying your belief systems to increase your sensitivity to higher frequency energy and thus receive those transmissions more in their natural form. Along with that, you can also, once again, do certain kinds of permission slip exercises that take advantage of the fact that you have this pineal interface in your brain. So, while working on your belief systems, not instead of, but in addition to working on your belief systems, you can also work directly with the pineal gland to allow it to produce the appropriate amount of dimethyltryptamine, serotonin, and melatonin that will be representative of the kind of neurochemical, neuroelectric transmission templates that are more clearly representative of the original transmission, so that the physical mind receives that without so much filtering. One way to do this is as you go to sleep, because the idea of DMT, melatonin, serotonin work very strongly in the nighttime hours, especially at what you call your 3 a.m. hour. You can, before you go to sleep, focus on the idea of your third eye, what you call the pineal gland, your third eye, metaphysically speaking, and allow yourself to focus on it. Allow yourself to feel the idea of that neurochemical being produced by that pineal gland, the regulator. Allow yourself to see that little nodule, or feel that little nodule, or hear that little nodule. However it works for you, relaxing and producing the appropriate amount of these neurochemical transmitters that will allow for more clarity in opening up those interdimensional windows, to allow you to perceive more purely the higher frequency energy that is being downloaded to you by your higher mind all the time. And thus then, by focusing on that and allowing it to produce the appropriate amount necessary for clarity and balance between the non-physical and physical realities that you are experiencing, you can bit by bit, either quickly or slowly, whatever is the appropriate rate for you, begin to feel more and more inspiration coming, more and more imagination working, more and more of your inner vision opening up with clarity, with brightness, with brilliance, with color. And you can begin to work more smoothly in conjunction, in a relationship with your higher mind. Now, remember, not only is the idea that your higher mind conceives, the brain receives, and the physical mind perceives, but in understanding that, once again, allow us to reinforce the side effects of that, the full understanding of what that means. Because we know in your society you have trained yourselves to think that you have to think your way through everything, that you have to be in control, that the physical mind must always control things in order to make them happen, we would like to once again remind you, in conjunction with what we are saying now, to reinforce this idea of the higher mind being the conceiver, not the physical mind. That it's not even just about letting the higher mind be the conceiver and not the physical mind. It is also understanding that the physical mind actually is not designed to be the conceiver. It cannot do that job. And that's why very often you find yourselves getting into so much trouble when the physical mind thinks it has to be the one running the show and making sure every single detail is exactly where they think it needs to be in order for something to happen. The physical mind is not designed, is not capable of doing that. So stop trying. It's tiring. It's exhausting. And the reason is, it's not designed to do that. The physical mind is designed not to know how something is going to happen. The physical mind is designed to know how something is happening, or how it has happened. It is not designed to know how something is going to happen. The higher mind is designed to know how something is going to happen. Look at the analogy of a mountaintop and a valley. Physical mind is in the valley, walking down the road. It can't see around the next bend. It cannot see over the next mountain chain. But the higher mind can. So when you allow the higher mind to be the guide and trust it, and stop trying to do its job for it, let it do its job and let it transmit to you through the brain the guidance that it can deliver to you, then it will steer you along the proper path that will allow you to know that even though the physical mind can't necessarily see where it's going right away or know how it's going to get there, that it will get there because it has guidance from its own higher self. We have, again, likened this to the analogy of having a periscope going down into the water. But the higher mind is above the water and can see clear to the horizon, whereas the physical mind is down below the water where things are a little murky. And thus then you may not know that there is a chasm ahead. But the idea is that the higher mind understands the currents, can look down through the water and see where all the pitfalls lie, and can tell you, even though it may seem to the physical mind that it's taking a circuitous route, the higher mind is telling you that that's actually the best route, so you don't fall off the edge into the chasm. The physical mind may be impatient and think, oh no, I want to get there faster, I want to go this way. Whereas the higher mind is saying, but if you do, you actually will take longer to get where you want to go, because I'm telling you that's not the best way for you. So the idea is to, first and foremost, as I said, relax the belief systems within the personality construct that make it seem as if the physical mind is the one that's supposed to be in charge, because it's not. The physical mind's job is to relax and enjoy the experience, enjoy the ride, and let the higher mind be the guide. And that's how it works. And you can make this more efficacious by getting in touch with your beliefs and clarifying them, by doing things that focus on allowing the mechanism within your brain itself to have a more clearly placed template so that you are translating that information more clearly, and to rely on and trust the higher mind's ability to know where you're going, how you're going to get there, and what is the best possible route for you. You have to work in concert with it. You have to work together with it in order to actually be a whole person. If you're just using your physical mind and your thought patterns in order to think you have to arrange your life to work, then really you're functioning as half a person. The idea is to be a whole person and use all levels of your consciousness in this experience, in this adventure that you call your lives in physical reality. And it will go much more smoothly, I guarantee it. Not because I said so, but simply because that's the way the universe is structured. That's how the mechanism works. All we're talking about here is physics. Take advantage of the nature of the structure of the physics of existence. That's all we're suggesting that you do to make your lives more joyful. Now again, those that may not be familiar with some of these concepts may ask how. Well, how do I know when I'm being guided by the higher mind? Very simple question with a very simple answer once again. The idea being that the vibration of your true natural self, the vibration of the higher mind self, is the vibration that your physical mind and your physical body often translates as excitement, joy, passion, love, creativity. So when circumstances come up in your life that contain the highest amount of those qualities, when the situations occur in your life that contain the highest amount of that feeling, that's the direction to act on. And we will be discussing tomorrow of your time more of the other side of this equation, taking action. Because you see, it is in a sense a two-part process. The idea of downloading is all well and good, but if you do not actually take action on the inspiration, if you don't actually take action and apply the imagination, the vision, the dream, then you are short-circuiting your manifestation. Because the idea is very similar to water or electricity. The energy must flow through you and be applied in your reality in order for the downloading to continue. If you're not applying the energy, applying the information, then it just sits within you and builds up and builds up and builds up and goes nowhere. And if it just sits within you, what's the point of receiving more information if you're not going to do anything with it? The universe is, above all, efficient and logical. Therefore, if you're just sitting and not applying, not acting on your dreams, not acting on that energy, not applying the information that is being downloaded, there really is no point in giving you more until you are ready for more. And you get ready for more by applying what you already have. Putting it to work, putting it into action, taking the steps necessary to show the higher mind that you have the conviction and the belief that you trust that what's being downloaded can be applied in your physical reality in a very pragmatic and practical way and can actually support you. And not just support you, but allow you to thrive, allow you to grow, allow you to expand your excitement, your joy, your creativity. Remember that it all comes as a complete kit. So you allow yourself the opportunity allow yourself the opportunity to allow those three components of higher mind, brain, and physical mind to work together as conceiver, receiver, and perceiver, and do so in a balanced way, then you will find more synchronicity in your life, more effortlessness, more joy, more creativity, and things just unfolding in what you call a very magical way, a very effortless way. So, remember this also about the idea of downloading. We hear often many of you asking, in a sense praying for, wishing for, asking for. Sometimes some of you will come to us or other beings or entities and say, "You have my permission to give me information." Well, yes, we know that. We are always, creation is always sending all that it can send. If you feel you are not receiving, it's not because it's not being sent. It's because you are interfering with the reception. So the idea is, if you want to receive more, become a better receiver. And you become a better receiver, a clearer receiver, by being willing to trust that that information is there to serve you, by clarifying your beliefs, by getting in touch with the idea of how those neurotransmitters are structured in your brain, and trusting the higher mind knows what it's doing as a guide. Among many other ways you may attract yourself to any other rituals or permission slips you believe will work for you to allow yourself to get out of your own way and to remove from the physical mind the onus of having to be the one in charge, to carry the weight of the universe on its shoulders, which it is not designed to do. So, if you want more enlightenment, lighten up on your physical mind. Let it do its job, which is to keep you focused in physical reality and have a physical reality experience, while at the same time enjoying the guidance of the higher mind that it can provide. Let the brain do its job and be a clear receiver. Again, this is also why it's important to allow yourself physical health. Keep your body clear of toxins, so on and so forth. So that, again, it is physically the best receiver it can be. Then, when you are aligned in that way, when you clear your beliefs as best you can, when you clear your body as best you can, when you clear your brain as best you can, when you act upon your joy as best you can, you will find that these things will work for you. And you will begin to really know in a very tangible way that you are truly, truly becoming more aware of the relationship you have with higher mind. You will truly begin to build that relationship in a conscious way. And you will see it work in your physical reality experience. Guaranteed by creation. Not by me. By creation.
I will say good day to you this day of your time. How are you all?
All right, thank you for your response. Nice to know there's always someone on the other end of this transmission. First and foremost, as always, we will extend to you our deep appreciation for the co-creation of this interaction. For each and every time you allow us to interact with your civilization in this way, through these communications, it affords us an opportunity to learn through each and every one of you, individually and all of you together collectively, that many more perspectives that exist within creation. So we thank you for expanding our understanding of all the ways that creation can present itself within existence. We would now like to begin with the topic of this transmission, as has been discussed, that we will call Message for Japan. The idea, of course, is that many of you know that as you live in physical reality, there will be certain circumstances, certain situations, certain experiences that can and will occur that may involve what you have described in your earth human language, catastrophic results, disastrous results, but which can also, from a different perspective, yield many deep understandings in a positive and constructive way that will allow you to learn from these experiences how to move forward in your reality in a manner that is more conducive to the kind of world, the kind of reality experience you say you prefer. In short, anything can be learned in a positive context from any kind of an experience at all, including those that you may have labeled disastrous. For they are only experiences as far as the soul is concerned, as far as the spirit is concerned. They are all capable of being added to the overall understanding, the overall growth of the spirit and the soul. This does not in any way, shape, or form mean to diminish the experience as experienced by the physical personality. We understand all too well the idea that there is suffering on your planet. Nevertheless, many times, individuals and groups on your planet will attract themselves to or attract to themselves the idea of such experiences that contain the idea of hardship and suffering, in order to have the opportunity to teach, to learn, to grow, to choose. Again, the idea is that from the soul perspective, from the soul and spirit point of view, this can only add to the ability to strengthen, to clarify, to delineate, to discern more clearly what it is you wish your world to be. So, specifically with regard to that area on your planet that has now experienced this particular natural occurrence, compounded with the idea of technological consequences as well, we would like to discuss 3 particular areas that are reflective and representative of what can be gleaned from this event. There are, of course, many more experiences other than just 3. Many more ideas other than just 3. But this can start you off in understanding how it is we view these kinds of experiences. And you can decide, if you so desire, if you so choose, to incorporate this kind of perspective, this kind of understanding in your own point of view with respect to these kinds of events as they may happen to others on your planet or even to yourself, as you may or may not find yourself in similar circumstances in your upcoming months and years, depending upon where you are on your planet and what it is you have chosen to attract to yourselves with the energy that you are giving off, based on whatever you believe, whether positively or negatively, to be most likely, most probable, most true for you, or what you believe you need to experience to allow you to decide, to allow you to change, to allow you to discern what path you wish to walk on your planet and how you wish your world to be. The first way, the first context in which this event can be viewed is that as a culture, what you call the Japanese nation has for quite some time on your planet, historically speaking,
as you count these things, as you count these years, been relatively isolated unto itself, relatively self-contained as a culture, and even in what you would call recent years, has maintained a perspective to some degree of keeping to themselves, of creating certain kinds of sociological, political barriers, lines, borders, with respect to how they interact with the rest of the globe. We are not in any way, shape, or form saying this is a negative thing. It is just part and parcel of the experience they have chosen as a culture to remain, in a sense, highly focused within their culture, highly unitized, unified within their culture, in a kind of group mind focus with relatively little focus on the idea of individuality, although this has been changing in recent years. Nevertheless, the idea of having now allowed themselves to choose to have this kind of an experience, which they have known for some time could happen, has begun to break down these sociological structures, these borders, these barriers, by allowing them to experience a need to rely on the globe for support. And be capable thus then of seeing the outpouring of support that they have received, that other people around your planet are willing to share with them, willing to give to them freely, with love. This will have the effect of beginning to allow many of them that have been of a mentality of isolationism and withdrawal to begin to see that you are all connected to everyone else, that you are one family, regardless of your differences, and in fact, sometimes even because of them. For any relationship is not really measured so much by the similarities that make you compatible, but whether or not you can allow your differences to be compatible as well. Thus, they are learning in this experience that they can reach out, that they do not have to fear the idea of interaction with other cultures, other societies, other ideas, other perspectives, other belief systems, that their culture can still maintain its uniqueness and its qualities without fear of dilution, while at the same time celebrating that uniqueness, reaching out simultaneously to the great diversity all around them, each its own expression of uniqueness, yet working hand in hand to support each other in times of need, in times of suffering, so that they can begin to let go of the old view, the old world view, that they really are cut off from the rest of the world. That they now can know they are part of a global family that loves and respects them and is willing to help in time of need. The second idea that they are playing out, that they are experiencing, that they have chosen to experience on their soul path as a culture, is they are still, to date, the only culture on your planet that has actually experienced destruction by nuclear device. This has been within the context of their consciousness for many, many decades on your planet. They have never really let it go. Thus then, they have always had, since that destruction, since the experience of the utilization of atomic devices on their soil, in what you call your world war, they have had what you might call in your language a love-hate relationship with the idea of nuclear energy. So in moving forward to decide to utilize nuclear energy as their source of power in certain places in their nation, always as a companion walking that path has been the fear of that energy. Thus then they have now given themselves an opportunity to see that fear played out, to see what the idea of holding on to such fears can do, how it can come into play with the idea of working with the things that happen in nature to compound, magnify, and amplify the fears, and to cause the idea of outer reflective harm and destruction as representative and reflective of the inner fear, the inner belief that they have not really come to terms with yet within themselves. This is also thus then a sparkling opportunity for them to realize that they have now come full circle with this idea, that they do not have to fear such ideas, and in letting them go can open themselves up to other ideas, other ways, which brings us to the third context, which means that now not only can they, but the rest of you on your planet, as many of you now have made your own assessment of, recognize that the way you have designed your nuclear technology is not at this point safe. And thus then, by seeing clearly, once again, for this isn't the first time, but on this scale clearly, the damage that can be caused should something go awry, you can now begin, as many of you have begun to do, start a dialogue on your planet with whether or not that's the technology you really wish to continue to use. Because it has shown you very clearly what can happen and how it can amplify and magnify the disastrous aspects of these natural occurrences. You all have known that this could happen. Yet you have all decided, many of you, to move forward with these kinds of technologies. Now you can see by example, by this culture being willing to act as the example, even at what it costs them, to act as the example, that this is not necessarily a direction in your best interests technologically. You can now come together in dialogue and decide that there can be other ways that do not negatively impact, that do not negatively reflect the negative beliefs within you. That you can explore together new ideas and new understandings. Well, really old ones, but ones that you have ignored for many, many generations. There have been from time to time on your planet many individuals who've understood that there are other ways to tap into energy in the universe, to tap into the energy of your planet. But you have made your decisions in creating your sociological and political systems to allow individuals with what you would call vested interests to, in a sense, decide for you what shall be done. But now you can see that this gives you an opportunity to empower yourselves as individuals and as groups, to open dialogues and to discuss now what can be done in other directions to serve the greater good of the total population of your world. So this can be used as one beginning marker, one beginning event to start, as you say, the ball rolling on a series of understandings and unfoldments and dialogues in a new perspective, a new context for what is possible on your world. Because as we have said many times, the way that many of you have gone about deciding what it is you do prefer is by giving yourself an absolutely clear demonstration of what you don't prefer. Thus rendering in black and white terms your choices, so that there will be no ambiguity from that point forward. You can now see, by example, what can occur through the utilization of the choices that have been made. And you can send your gratitude, appreciation, and thanks to that Japanese culture that was willing to allow themselves to be an example, even at the cost that they have endured, to begin those awakenings, to begin those dialogues, to move forward on your planet in ways that are more reflective of what you have said for many generations you would prefer your planet to be, but now can take real steps toward the manifestation, toward the actions necessary to allow for the manifestation of that reality that has always been around you, but which is invisible to you until you take such actions as to render it visible, the reality you prefer. Allow yourselves an opportunity to take a moment now to relax and close your eyes, if you wish, and take a deep breath in. And as you take that deep breath in, allow yourselves to remember that you're all breathing the same air, everywhere, all of you. There is only one atmosphere on your world. You all breathe the same atmosphere, no matter how far away from anything you may think you are. You are all connected in that way, and in many other ways. So as you breathe in deeply now, allow yourselves to feel the connection to those in Japan, to those in all the other nations of your world, all that share the same air. Feel that connection as you breathe in and out, as you breathe together. For is that not the meaning of the word in your language, to conspire? To breathe together. So conspire together to create the world of your dreams rather than the world of your nightmares. Breathe together as one. And the breath of all will support the breath of each. So each can be a manifestation of their dreams. And in each being allowed to be the unique individual that you are, will support the totality of the whole picture, so that all may share in what each has to give. Be of help to each other. Take action for each other. And you will allow, you will reflect, you will represent the ability to make manifest and make visible the world that you prefer, that is right here and right now, but is invisible to your senses until such time as you are an example of the vibration of that reality. Wakarimasu ka? Do you understand? We will perhaps discuss more aspects of this in time as things unfold. For there are chains of consequences that are not over yet. Many more things will unfold that have, in that sense, been triggered by this event around your planet, here and there. But we simply urge you and suggest to you that when you see these things or experience these kinds of events, that you do not at first, though you may recognize the suffering, though you may recognize the idea of things breaking down, breaking apart, that you do not at first assume to put negative meaning into these things. For this is simply the way you have decided to wake yourselves up, to shake yourselves awake. It does not have to be that way. But in that you have, for many generations, resisted the idea of your natural selves. Thus then, you will find some way to get your attention, to bring your attention into focus, to bring your attention to the matters at hand that require your attention, that require your action, that require your vibration be higher, so that you can allow yourselves to live the reality you say you wish to live. As these things unfold, know you are not alone. You are never alone. You are never isolated. For all is one even as it expresses itself through individuals, all is one. And if you allow yourselves to put in the positive meaning to all events, then the synchronicity that you will create will be able of, in a sense, showing you, reflecting to you, demonstrating to you that all things can come together in an easy and effortless way, and that you do not require the idea of disasters to get your attention. But as long as there is fear in your hearts, negative beliefs within your personality structure that you are afraid to look at, that you resist looking at, resist transforming, so too will the idea of events continue to get your attention, to shake yourselves awake, until such time as you finally realize what the message is you are attempting to deliver to yourselves. So we suggest that you wake up now. Wake up and live the dream instead of just dreaming it and hoping that one day it might come to pass. Take action now and allow the dream to manifest. For it isn't that you make these things happen. It is that you allow the thing that already exists to become visible through your actions. We thank you for allowing us at this time to point out to you that your world is growing, as you say in your language, smaller and smaller every day. And as in that sense it grows smaller, you become larger and larger and larger in frequency. And thus begin to approach the ability to have more contact, not only with us and other beings from other worlds, but more contact within yourselves, to all levels of your consciousness that you have created within yourselves, that you have compartmentalized within yourselves. We will be addressing some degree of this compartmentalization of consciousness in the personality structure in what you call tomorrow night's transmission. And so continue this idea of how to get in touch with the barriers that you have created even within your own consciousness that are represented by the barriers in the outer world, and how to dissolve them in such a manner as to function again as a unified whole while sacrificing none of your individuality, in fact enhancing it to a greater degree. For the whole, in that sense, is the result of the validation of all the parts. The full validation of all the parts that automatically work together harmoniously when you allow them to. All of this can come from these kinds of events. All of this understanding can be had.
All right, we will say good day to you all this day of your time. We will begin this transmission titled The Voices in Your Head in the following way. Through the auspices of myself, who is the voice in the channel's head. We will be talking about different levels of this idea, although there are two main sections, the physical and the non-physical, that are translated as voices in the head, as ideas, as inspirations, as messages, telepathic, vibrational, intuitional, and so forth. Let us begin in the physical realm with the understanding that with each level that we will be discussing, from which you can experience the idea of communication in your mind, there will always be the potential for any communication to be filtered through either the negative, the neutral, or the positive aspects of your personality structure. Beginning with that idea, let us examine the most common voices that occur in your head on a daily basis, generally speaking. You have within your personality structure reflections of things that sound like information, that sound like voices in a sense, But in the center there is what might just be referred to as the neutral observer. This is representative of the daily thoughts you may have, the observations you may have, the neutral recognitions that you may have going about your life, such as, oh, look, there is a person over there. Oh, I think I will walk that way. Oh, there is a person approaching me. Oh, yes, I remember I have to do this thing today. Just the idea of the neutral observer in the center that is kind of recording the comings and goings of your activities, the recognition of your navigation in the physical reality dream. However, bracketing the neutral observer position of the voice in your head are the negative and positive sides. The negative side of the voice in your head that exists on this physical vibrational level is also fragmented into two parts, two components, as well as the positive side being sectioned into two vibrations. Ostensibly, we will refer to these two vibrations on the negative side and the two vibrations on the positive side, bracketing the neutral observer as male and female components, masculine and feminine aspects. On the negative side, you would find the masculine aspect would be most often referred to as the critic. That voice you hear that tells you, oh, you're not doing good enough. That judges you. That says you're not worthy, you're not living up to your potential. That you're not doing something correctly. That you're doing it wrong. And all the other kinds of voices that you hear, the stories that you tell yourself that are critical of your nature, critical of your being. Now, there are many ways that this idea, this critical voice in your head, is translated and interpreted in different cultures on your planet. But we understand that to the general population we are addressing right now, in your particular nation state, the majority of the mythologies and stories that exist stem from what you term the Judeo-Christian background, and therefore, in using the stories that come from that background as an example of how this critical voice is often seen, we will refer to some of your ancient biblical references. So this critical voice has been referred to symbolically as the father of lies, because all of these judgments, you're not good enough, you're not worthy, you're doing something wrong, in the judgmental sense, are all really fundamentally lies about your nature, your true worth, your value in existence. In recognizing that critical voice in ancient times, but because your physical reality, especially in ancient times, tended to be looked at by your population as something outside of you, something separate from you that you existed in, then this idea of the critical voice was also projected into an idea, an archetypal idea outside of yourself, because many people in ancient times simply didn't understand that it issued from a portion of their own consciousness, a portion of their own psyche, their own physical mind. And thus, when these kinds of critical judgments came from within, when they heard these voices in their heads, they simply followed suit in assuming that everything happens outside, that physical reality is really outside of you. And so they assigned this critical voice to the idea of demons, negative spirits, the devil, and essentially summed it all up in the archetypal symbol of the father of lies. So please understand that when you hear this critical voice, in a sense, it is actually lying to you about yourself and giving you an opportunity to align with a vibration that is really out of phase with your true self. The feminine side of this voice in the negative vibration is called the seducer, the deceiver, and is often depicted by the idea of a siren that lures you onto the rocky shoals to crash, and biblically has been represented as the polar feminine opposite, so to speak, or partner, if you will, counterpart, if you will, to the father of lies, and has been referred to in your ancient texts as the whore of Babylon. That's why those phrases exist in your biblical texts. And this is what they actually refer to, are these archetypal energies within your own physical mind that represent the critic and the deceiver. The deceiver, its specific negative belief talent is to lure you, to deceive you into the idea of doing something that is out of integrity, out of alignment, but justifying and convincing you that it is actually the better path. The deceiver goes by the idea that the end justifies the means, and that it's all right to cut corners, it's all right to cheat others, it's all right to take what is not yours, because of some end result that is supposedly going to erase all the misalignment that was utilized in the actual means toward that end. And so it lures you down the path of saying, oh, it's all right, just take this shortcut here, nobody will care, you're doing good work, it'll all come out okay. It seems to say that this is the easiest way to go, but its deceptive quality is actually disguising the fact and allowing you to be in denial about the fact that because it's out of alignment with your true frequency, it's actually going to be the most difficult possible path you could take. And that things will always rebound upon you of like vibration, because remember, these belief systems are self-reinforcing and will also be reflected back by the higher mind mirror, and will always be amplified according to the energy that you are choosing to buy into. The deceiver, the justifier in this sense, on the negative side, is also responsible for the recognition in your society that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Because again, good intentions are not enough if you are not aligned in your methodology in how you arrive at the result of the choices that you make. So, pay attention to the idea that many of the voices you hear on the negative side that stem from certain belief systems within your physical mind come from that aspect of your psyche that has been symbolically labeled the critic and the deceiver. And allow yourself to recognize when they are attempting to tempt you into a vibrational misalignment with your true self. Go back into the neutral voice, the neutral observer, so that you can allow yourself the opportunity to shift these vibrations in your physical mind to the positive side. And on the positive side, again with the masculine and feminine energy, is the representation of the positive parents, the supportive father, the nurturing mother, the loving parents that guide you and allow you to grow and mature in alignment with your joy, your truth, your excitement, your passion, your creativity, your unconditional love of self and all that is. And that's when you know, when you allow yourself to let the positive side of these voices shine through, come through. You hear, you feel the pat on the back, the job well done, the support system that is reflected in the synchronicity in your life from the positive parents, the loving parents, the supportive father, and the nurturing mother, that now can allow you to become fully an adult in alignment with your true core spirit being. And that's the first layer and level of the voices in your head that are connected most strongly to the vibration of your experience in physical reality that are expressions of your physical mind, your psyche. reflections that are built in to guide you so that you can always allow yourself to remain, for the most part, dead center in the neutral observer without necessarily believing that you need to be tempted into the misalignment of the negative side, of the critic and the deceiver, but allows you the opportunity to choose to really only receive those messages, those inputs, those voices that are representative and reflective of the supportive father and the nurturing mother, the loving parents, and grow in their image into a mature adult in that vibration, in that balanced state of being. Now, we are going to also talk about other levels that you're going to experience connections to, and the levels that we are about to describe, in some senses, are representative of degrees of relevance, degrees of expansion of energy and consciousness, but just because we are going to give them to you in a certain order, up the ladder, up the scale of expansiveness and vibrational resonance, doesn't mean that you will necessarily experience them in your life in exactly this order. You may skip over a couple and connect to something on a different level because that's what you need to connect to. Because what we are talking about here in the two different sections of the physical and the non-physical are not only the ideas of the voices, the interpretive voices that you create in your physical mind, but also the way in which you actually receive communication from non-physical beings, non-physical levels of your own consciousness, with respect not only to the idea of self-guidance, but also with respect to the idea of connecting to other levels in a kind of a channeling state. So we're also talking here about that when people feel that they are attracted to and drawn to the idea of opening up to being in a channeling state and connecting to other levels of consciousness, we are giving you an understanding of the typical degree, the typical arrangement, the typical order in which you may experience connecting to other levels of consciousness that are common for many of you who are willing to open up to that channeling state. Again, it doesn't mean it has to happen in this order or exactly in this way. But what we are describing is the average, typical way most of you will experience connecting to different levels of consciousness, be it within yourself or what appears to be outside yourself, if you open up to the idea of being more of yourself and existing in the channeling state. So, we have described the idea first of this first step, this foundation of the neutral observer in the physical reality, with the negative side of the critic and the deceiver, and the positive side of the supportive father and the nurturing mother. And now we go up to the next expansive level. This is where you start tapping into the idea of your own intuition, which is an understanding of how you pick up on vibrations of things around you, people around you, beings around you of different types. They don't have to be human. But the intuition also has its own voice. It has its own feeling. It has its own sensation. It's a different kind of a voice in your head, in your heart. And remember, through all this, we're not leaving the heart out. This is a balancing act between the mind and the heart in every case that we're describing, positive or negative. But the intuition is another level of the voice in your head where you sense things, you pick up on vibrations and interpret them, again, either through the negative or the positive filter, according to what you're buying into, but interpret those vibrations in ways that feels a little bit different than the typical voices that you talk to yourself with in your own head. Because it seems to be coming a little bit more from another level, another realm, a little bit more picking up on quote-unquote outside vibrations and interpreting them for yourself, to use them as guideposts for yourself, to understand how to relate to the reality around you, how to guide yourself through that ocean, that sea of vibrational emanations, vibrational information. And again, fine-tuning it so that it is always in balance in that neutral observer space in the center, which runs all the way up and down these levels that we're talking about, positive, negative, and neutral. These levels can be experienced through these filters on all levels. The idea, therefore, is to stay balanced with the idea of intuition and pay attention and have the discernment vibrationally within yourself to know the difference between the idea of what you're picking up on just as a neutral vibration and what you may be coloring or interpreting or spinning, as you say, into or through the negative or positive filters within your own physical mind. Because just to pick up on a vibration doesn't necessarily mean that you are remaining neutral with your response or reaction to that vibration, because it's still, as with everything, an opportunity to put positive meaning or negative meaning into what you are sensing. But you are sensing on a different level in what we call the intuitive vibrational level. That's another level that translates into a kind of sensing or voice in your head and in your heart. Above that, the next level is what we will call the archetypal compartment level. Now, what this means is, because your physical mind has been compartmentalized in a variety of ways, you have different kinds of personality aspects of your total being, your total physical mind, all existing kind of either overlapping, if you wish, or side by side, if you wish. Doesn't matter how you look at this. But you have these different archetypal expressions of your physical consciousness. And each and every one of them, and there are 22 of them, can actually sound and feel like an autonomous being that suddenly you have gotten in touch with. Many times, again, not always, but many times when individuals on your planet start opening up to the idea of channeling, be it vocal channeling or automatic writing or however you wish to express it, but with the component that you're connecting to something else, someone else, usually, not always, usually, the first level you actually come in contact with is this archetypal level within your own personality structure. You think you may be talking to someone else outside your personality on another dimensional plane, but very often you're not. The first beings you usually encounter are these archetypal reflections that comprise your total physical personality. These 22 archetypal reflections were intuitively recognized by various individuals through time and incorporated into what you call the major arcana of the tarot card deck. So if you want to understand what the qualities, what the energies, what the vibrations of these 22 archetypal compartmentalized components of your psyche are, look at the major 22 cards of the tarot deck, and you will understand exactly how they all relate to how you view yourself at given times, what kind of energies you feel within yourself, what kind of role you play at different times in various situations, what kind of stories and relationships you have with your psyche, within yourself at various times, in various situations, and again, in conjunction with and according to whatever you hold on to as a belief, because you can experience every single one of these 22 major arcana, 22 compartmentalized archetypes in, again, either a neutral, negative, or positive way. So allow yourself to investigate those major cards within the tarot deck to understand all of the components on the archetypal level of your physical mind. Now, as you then explore another vibration above that, you now go into the idea of the higher mind. And this is where the conduit of your imagination comes in, because imagination is the conduit, is the pipeline of communication between the higher mind and the physical mind. And therefore, the voice you're most likely to experience from the higher mind is actually the experience of your imagination itself. The daydreams, the images, the feelings that come from your imagination. This can include the idea of the nighttime dreams as well, because very often what you wake up and remember as a dream, which is again another kind of voice, another kind of message delivery system, may simply be your physical mind's interpretation of a communication that you were having as a more holistic person when you were more fully in touch, more fully awake in and as your higher mind self. And so when you wake up in the morning, your physical mind will use that pipeline of your imagination to reconnect, to stay connected to the conversation, to the communication, to the information coming from your higher mind, and it will interpret this in the way that you understand as images and feelings and experiences and memories you call the dream. So the higher mind has many ways of communicating, not only, of course, in the concept we are discussing already, and even down through the idea of the archetypes and down through the intuition and into the physical experience, but also through the synchronicity in your life, which is another kind of signal or sign or roadmap or voice in your head. Because higher mind will usually simply guide you very, very gently to see what is already in front of your face in physical reality. Because the higher mind mirror is another way of reflecting information and ideas that are important for you to be aware of, and it will use the synchronicity of what's already existing in your reality to do so, and that's another form of communication. It's another form of voice. So when you see synchronicity, when you experience synchronicity, you're actually experiencing another voice from the higher mind reflecting to you what you need to know to stay in alignment with the path that you chose to experience, the path you chose to be, the path you uniquely are. Above and beyond that, again, you will find that those that are open to it will begin perhaps to connect to the idea you call spirit guides, or those that exist in what you call the non-physical realm of spirit, those that exist on the other side, as you say. And this can begin the sojourn into channeling and mediumistic capabilities, and you start hearing those voices in your head, the voices of the guides, the intuition that comes with that, the imagination that comes with that. It's not always experienced as a literal voice, although it can be. But that's now the level you're tapping into when you're at the level of the vibration of the guides and the spirits in the spirit realm. And that can boost and amplify and magnify the so-called transmissions and voices that you receive, that you perceive from that realm, and may translate as voices in your head that can impart information to you that can be of great benefit both to you and to anyone else to whom those messages, to whom that information may be important. Now that you have had a chance to refresh and renew yourselves, we will continue with the idea of the exploration of the phoenix frequency and rising from the ashes. As we have already shared with you, it is now important. It is now timely. It is now, as you say, par for the course to begin to examine every one of your old definitions and really, really look and see deeply, clearly, how they may or may not be serving you for anything and everything that you relate to in your life, because it's all about your relationship with everything in your reality and how you define yourself and your relationship to whatever experience you may have. And face that experience now as the phoenix would face it, with clarity and certainty that anything that you experience, anything that you recognize, and anything that you observe that is not representative of the vibration that you prefer, of your phoenix frequency, will be ignited and reduced to ashes by simply being able, by simply choosing to remain in that frequency. The clarity that will come, the inspiration and the imagination that will be yours in the phoenix frequency, in the crimson and gold, and the silver light, the clear light that is the result of the combination of the two, shall aid and assist you like a beacon to always recognize the frequency that you prefer, the frequency of the phoenix light, so that you can remain harmoniously aligned with that vibration anytime you wish, and never fear that it will in any way, shape, or form extinguish. There may be times when you choose to obscure it from yourself, but now you know you will always have the ability to know that that light is there, that fire is there, for it cannot go out. It cannot extinguish. For it's the fire and the flame of your very essence, of your very being, of your existence itself. It cannot go out. Your light cannot go out. There is nowhere for it to go to. It can only shine. The darkness that surrounds it is what allows it to always shine. So you know that the polarity will always exist. But the phoenix knows that the polarity is in perfect balance to serve. For even as it is consumed and reduced to black ash, it knows that that darkness will blow away and allow for the rebirth that is to come. So the light that shines can only shine. The light that shines can only shine if there is darkness around it in which to shine. For only by having the darkness can you know the light. The phoenix frequency is the balance of both, and the utilization of this balance in a way, in a method, in a style that allows for this cycle to grow of renewal and rebirth, constantly bootstrapping itself up and up and up, rising and rising and rising toward the light of all that is, that also is the darkness within itself, and the light within itself that exists in perfect harmony and perfect balance, so that both exist eternally, so that the light will never go out, and that the darkness will always reveal it. For against the blackest black does the light shine brightest. So do not fear the dark. Do not fear the ashes. Allow yourselves then the opportunity to examine further old ideas. Remember that we have spoken of vibration and resonance, and that everything in your experience is simply the product of that, of signature frequencies, signature vibrations. And as you examine those vibrations, as in a sense you speed up, as you accelerate your frequency, as you match the vibrations of your reality will appear in a sense to slow down. Even as you accelerate, you will reach that balance point in your frequency as you fly faster and faster in the phoenix frequency. The paradoxical experience will be that many times the experiences in your life will slow down. Many of you have this kind of experience in what you call your emergencies or your accidents, where suddenly everything becomes hyper-focused and everything seems to be happening very slowly, even though you know it is happening very quickly. The phoenix frequency can create this experience in a variety of ways, where suddenly you are matching the frequency of the event that you are generating. And as you match the frequency of the events that you are creating, it will seem to slow down and sometimes maybe even freeze so that you are perfectly aligned, perfectly matched, perfectly synchronized with it. And giving you thus then the opportunity to more clearly examine all of the aspects of your creation, to truly see at a glance and in totality the mechanism of your creation, and to understand the reflection that you have given off so that you can work with it. This is the seed of true magic, of true manifestation, of true malleability, of true creation, where you match the frequency of the creation of your event and can see thus then and experience at a glance the totality of all the aspects, all the facets of that manifestation to such a startling degree of clarity that you can work with it at your leisure, even as you know you are operating at hyper speed and that this is happening in the blink of an eye. You can work with it at your leisure to rearrange, to understand, to clarify, to remove, to place in, to reinvent that reflection to be far more representative of your true self. Far more reflective of your core being. As we have often said, when changes occur of a specific nature in your consciousness, you will see those changes reflected in your physical reality in a variety of ways. And this idea of matching that frequency and experiencing hyper-acceleration as if nothing is moving at all is a perfect representation of what we have heretofore discussed as infinite speed, because when things are moving at infinite speed, it appears that things are standing perfectly still because they're simply everywhere at once and nothing seems to be moving. This is now also being reflected even in your technology. Because as your scientists experience and explore the idea of the thing that they believe moves the fastest in your reality, light, they are simultaneously exploring the things that move the slowest, the dark, what you call cold. And they have discovered that they can combine the light and the dark, the cold and the light, in such a manner as they can actually freeze light and make it stand perfectly still and do what they wish with it at their leisure. This is a perfect reflection of this state. For in the ultimate cold, nothing is moving. It transcends into another state altogether. And when light intersects a pocket of that which has been created to be ultimately cold, light itself will freeze. And your reality becomes matched. Your frequency becomes matched with that of the speed of light. And you stand at that moment in an eternal now, able to accelerate and able to stand still, simultaneously in the midst of the brightest fire and the darkest ashes. And in combining them, create that eternal now, that frozen moment of space and time and light and frequency and resonance that allows you to see with crystal clarity the structure, the nature of existence itself. This freezing of light and transforming light into a variety of other expressions of energy is what is contained in the apparently empty chamber that forms the core of the consciousness of the ships in which we sail in our civilization. It forms the core of the intelligence that represents our higher self physicalized, with which we commune in our spacecraft. This empty chamber is using frozen light to create all forms of energy that can perform all manner of tasks in the blink of an eye at such high acceleration that it seems to be standing perfectly still in that true, clear, infinite moment of pure knowing. And it is that we tap into that allows us to simply observe the nature and structure of existence itself. For when we describe and define the idea of the nature and structure of existence itself, we are not expressing a belief. We are not expressing an opinion. We are expressing an observation. In the same way that when someone asks you, what color is this rose? And you say red or white or yellow or whatever the rose may be, that is not an opinion. It is an observation. As simply as you observe and know a rose to be red, we observe as simply the nature of the structure of existence itself, as clearly as you see the rose. And this is what we describe to you. And this is what we know all ideas are revealed against. For to take any definition and any idea and hold it up to the actual nature of the structure of existence itself, that X-ray, that blueprint, will show us what clicks and fits and aligns with that structure and what must fall away. Gaining this insight, gaining this clarity, gaining this ability to simply observe the structure of existence itself is one of the senses that exists naturally in the phoenix frequency of the clear light, the silver light that is created as the third reality that is more than the combination of the crimson and gold. Clear sight that allows, in a sense, to be represented by the 1,000 years the phoenix lives. The idea of bridging time, bridging space, of being eternal and yet being cyclic is represented by that lifespan. It is also representative of the fact that we have discussed before, that this now being the crossing of your threshold into a new understanding, the splitting prism of 2012 that will allow you to begin to accelerate toward a new reality, new understanding, a new experience, a new succession of parallel earths that are more and more every day, every moment, in every way, more and more representative of the world you prefer to experience, that is more reflective of the changes you are creating and willing to create within yourself by letting go of that which does not work for you, by letting go of those ashes. Thus then, from this year forward, as we have said before, your human race will create 1,000 years more for its existence on the earth, in which it will know peace, expansion, creativity, and far less limitation, and will become true fourth density beings. And in that 1,000 years, you will become as we have become, and will approach the time and the timing when you will no longer be quite as physical as you are now, when your vibrational resonance and the phoenix frequency will have uplifted you to the idea of that rarefied state you call fourth density, where you are quasi-physical, quasi-spirit, quasi-energy. And you will know the malleability and flexibility of space-time, and you will know that it is simply your idea within your consciousness. And you will be free to move in that space-time as free as we are, to transcend and transverse and transform all ideas of parallel realities into whatever experience you wish them to be, into whatever you observe is relevant for you. And at the end of that 1,000-year cycle, humans will no longer need to incarnate in that density, and many of you may become the guides and the spirits for those that will come after, for those that will be the new race on your planet, those that will be the continuation of the expression of the hybrid children that will arrive. And your earth shall become the 6th hybrid race, and will move toward a blending and a balance with all other 5, our civilization included, the Yael included, and the others that have not been named, all together forming a blending that will create the 7th hybrid race, of which you will be a part in a variety of ways that you cannot even yet imagine. You will transcend and rise above after that 1,000 years in a new form of spirit being that you will have created along with us, along with all the other beings that will form together the 7th hybrid species. And that will be an unimaginable time of imagination. And you are the seeds of that reality now. The seeds that will rise from the ashes and begin to give birth to the first stirrings and the first stepping stones that will lead to that exploration, to that inspiration, to that unimaginable experience of imagination. And things that cannot even be described in your language will become your new nature. They do exist within you now as a seed. You will allow them to blossom, if you wish, to a point where it can have an experience and an impact and an effect in your present lives. But it will also lead to a level beyond your comprehension at present. Plant the seeds now in the ashes of those things that no longer serve you, so that you will renew not only your individuality, but your collectivity in ways beyond description. Be the phoenix world. Be the phoenix earth. Be the phoenix civilization, and rise from the ashes you have created of all the limitation you have imposed upon yourself for countless thousands of years. Rise now from those ashes and be free. Even though you may be at the end of one journey, you are at the beginning of the cycle of a new journey that is unfathomable to your present consciousness. And yet, your present consciousness is the seed from which it will arise, from which it will blossom. The more you allow the phoenix frequency into your life, the more you blend the crimson and gold into the clear silver light, the more you know you can let go of the ashes that are no longer you. The faster you will rise, the more clearly you will become the seed of the new era, of the new cycle that will last 1,000 years, just like the phoenix of legend. For that legend is you. There will be constant reminders, constant reflections, constant permission slips now arising in your reality. Whether you live in the city of Phoenix or not, all who participate in this vibration will start to perceive all manner of symbolic and archetypal reflections that have to do with reminding you of this vibration. And by being reminded and having this vibration reflected to you more and more in a variety of ways beyond what you can even imagine, in surprising ways, you will see that your reality, you will feel your reality like a ball rolling, accelerating, 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 spinning, 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 spinning ever upward into the heights, into the stars, the unimaginable, unfathomable heights. Onward and upward into the wild blue yonder shall you fly into the unknown that is you, where you will discover that you are more and more in every way all that is, in all the ways it can express itself. Fly free. Fly free. Take a deep breath in and know that as you exhale, you are in the phoenix frequency and the ashes fall away. Take a deep breath in and know as you exhale that you are the phoenix frequency and the ashes fall away. Take a deep breath in and hold it. Hold it. Hold it. And exhale. And know that you are the eternal phoenix frequency. And that the ashes fall away, blow away, gone, scattered, vanished. And the only thing that remains is more of the pure you in the clear light. And with every exhale, you hail the new day. Hail and hearty. Hail, hail, the gang's all here.
I want to say good day to you this day of your time. How are you all? Once again, we take this opportunity to thank each and every one of you for co-creating this transmission this day of your time. Once again, each and every time, all of you and each of you allow such a transmissional link, bridge, to be formed. It affords our civilization an opportunity to experience creation through the eyes of more and more facets of the infinite. And we thank you for this gift of expansion. We would like to begin this transmission this day of your time with the following small story. There was a mighty spaceship with a curious crew exploring the breadth and depth of the cosmos. And as they would then come to a new world in their exploration, a new planet, a new solar system, they would then, with their curiosity, investigate, interact, share, trade, exchange, taking what they needed of that which was freely given to them, giving back that which was what the world might need, what the people on the world might need. And one day, in the midst of such an exchange, the crew was asked by the inhabitants of one of the worlds they were visiting, exactly, tell us, if you would, with this great, majestic ship that you have orbiting our world, tell us, if you would, just exactly, how powerful are you? And the captain of the crew said in response to this question, our ship can Boil your seas, turn them to steam. Level your cities in the wink of an eye. Turn your entire population to dust in an instant. Oh, said the inhabitant, that is very powerful. No, said the captain. What gives us our power is that we would never do such a thing. That is how powerful we are. That we have this at our disposal and would never use it that way. That is how powerful we are. So like unto then, many of the circumstances that rise up on your planet to face you, to challenge you. You have many different tools at your disposal. You have many different ways you can react and respond. You choose at every moment whether to exhibit the idea of power or not. But heed the idea that while in certain circumstances you may, from time to time, think that certain actions are the demonstration of power, make sure you pause and stop and think again so that you understand that the true demonstration of power is awareness, compassion, and the lightest possible touch. Because as we have said many times, that which is the greatest power requires the lightest possible touch to get something done. A great deal of pushing comes from those that feel powerless, that feel they must manipulate and push things into the direction they wish them to go. Those that already know they are part of the infinite. Those that already know there is no power greater than what they are already a part of need not exercise a demonstration, for they will know that in their allowance all things will fall into place. And that allowance is the greatest power that can be reflected to anyone else. In all your endeavors, every single one without exception, allow yourself that degree of immaculateness, that degree of precision, that degree of composure and wholeness. And as the channel has recently discussed with some of you, the idea wholly is to step into the void, to step into the nothing, freely, willingly, and most importantly, gracefully. For as you dive off of that diving board of familiarity, resistance in the dive will only allow you to hit the water hard. Grace in the dive will allow you to slip through the surface of the water effortlessly. You are all on the edge of the diving board. Now, in this time and place on your planet, the changes that have begun, the changes that are happening now, and the changes that will continue. It is up to you, each and every single individual one of you, as to how you will experience the event of every change. The changes, in and of themselves, do not have to manifest in any particular way. Change will occur. The methodology, the presentment, the effect of how you experience the change is up to whether or not you dive with resistance or dive gracefully. But dive you will. Because you have decided to dive. You have placed yourself by choice on the edge of the board. You have invited the unknown into your reality, and it has answered your invitation. Do not fear it. It is what you want. It is what you have asked for. It is what you have prayed for. Do not fear the form in which it comes. It comes in the form it needs to come in. For you to be challenged. For you to grow. Each and every one of you according to your kind, according to your belief, according to your vibration. Embrace the unknown. Embrace the change. Within it, you will find the rest of yourself. We salute you for your courage and your strength and your boldness to have chosen such a challenging world. It only shows you that you are that powerful, that you knew your power would be sufficient to handle the challenges this world presents to you. Know that, behave as if you know that, and you will see and feel and experience your world becoming the world of your dreams as you become the dream of the infinite. As you surrender to yourself, to your true self, and become the dream you were dreamed to be, so too will your world become a reflection of that dream. Let go your expectations and assumptions. Let go your definitions. Let go of who you think you are. Let go of who you think you're supposed to be. Because I will tell you this, in all honesty, you don't know who you are. You don't know who you are. You don't know who you are. And I will tell you this, that is exactly as it should be. When it is all right, when you are comfortable with not knowing who you are, then can you truly be who you are. Then can you truly reveal unto yourself who you really were created to be. But only when you stop thinking you know who you are is this possible. It is all right to not know who you are. Do not fear not knowing who you are. This is part of what it is to leap into the void. For only then, when you have allowed there to be nothing, can there be something. If you hold on to something, then there will always be nothing. If you let go and let it be all right for there to be nothing, and stay centered within your being, stay centered within your joy, not your fear, then you will know where you are is where you need to be. And you will not fear that anything can take you. You will not fear that you must give your power over. You will not fear in any way, shape, or form, even when you fear. You will not fear. Because you will experience the fear in a different way. You will experience it as information. You will experience it as self-awareness. You will experience it as an opportunity to add to the knowledge of yourself. You will experience it as one of the valued events of your life. For you are valued and valuable, and you must value yourself. Or nothing you have ever learned from any of us will work. If you do not value who you are, then you do not give yourself the ability to use any tool. The first tool is to be yourself, and let it be all right to be who you are, whatever that may be. Then can you change? But remember, change takes place within the nothing. You do not experience the shift itself. You only experience what comes after the shift. You only experience the result of the change. That takes place in a world of space and time. That is the world of experience. The change takes place in timelessness, and so there is no experience of it. Not of the actual change itself, but only of how you have changed. Let yourself go into that timelessness so that you may be free and flexible to change anytime it serves you, anytime it allows you to be more of who you are. And then trust that whatever it is you become, whatever it is you have changed into, on the other side of the change, is who you need to be at that moment. Work with it, live with it, love it. Above all, love who you are at every given moment. For only by loving who you are now can you then become anything else you can become. If you invalidate even one moment of your existence, you make it impossible to become any other moment. For until you give each moment its full value and its full due, then it cannot become the next moment. Because there is only one moment. And what you experience as different moments are the same moment. The same moment. But only from a different point of view. You cannot escape the moment. There is only one. By living in it fully and accepting it completely, you allow yourself to then see the same moment from another perspective. But only when you have allowed the perspective you now have to be valid for what it is. For it is the stepping stone that leads to the next moment. It is the rung on the ladder that leads to the next rung. And if you do not step on the first one, you will not reach the second one or the third.